everyone. This is Kara from the crew, and this is a segment of View from the Crew. So, a little bit different from our tech bits that is sharing information of how to use our forms, use our payment portals, and also learn how to do our contracts. So, these are kind of moving forward in the steps when we start to get to the nitty gritty and the girth of what we have in planning. So, I would love to just share just some tips on some different topics. This one primarily is focusing on timeline. So, if you just feel out of the loop, you're not sure what to do, upstream without a paddle, we are here for you. Brett and I love to do itineraries. We've been in the wedding industry for a very long time and have seen all different sorts of itinerary structures. But I just wanted to personally share on how we like to do some of our structuring as well. Obviously, everything is personalized to the vision of the client, but just wanted to share some ideas if you just want to get started. So, let's say that you are going from before ceremony to the end of the night. So that would be as far in regards to music and where we would be. Normally, traditionally, we would have seating music start 30 minutes before your ceremony. So that would be a time where you could have music that matches your taste. I always like to elevate the night in the playlist. So I like to start with something a little bit more classical. Um, but that is just depending on your taste. But anywho, this one's not music focused, so I'll get back on track. Timeline. So 30 minutes before you'll start your seating music. And that's the time when all your guests are being seated, everyone's kind of mingling and just getting ready for the ceremony, getting excited. So you want to have just time for everybody to arrive. Also, build in a few minutes just in case you have a few late arrivers, or having somebody at the door to make sure to keep guests out until your procession is over so that you can be not distracted or interrupted by people coming in. Then your ceremony will start. Typically, ceremonies are about 20 minutes, give or take. They could be shorter or they could be longer, just depending on what you want to be in your ceremony. Some people enjoy a ton of events being in the reception, and some people really like to fill up their ceremony. So it's all dependent on preference. So after that, a lot of times we move into cocktail hour. And when I say cocktail hour, especially if you are in same location, I would say rule of thumb is try not to have more than an hour. I would say hour and a half maximum. And during your cocktail hour is a great time to have any types of snacks and beverages, even if your bar is not open or if you're not doing a bar, but just so your guests don't get too hungry or too thirsty, because it's also an event day for them. So they may not be prepared and stocked up. And depending on what time of day it is, maybe they haven't ate lunch or anything too. So I always say a fed guest is a happy guest. So better to make sure to have some of that planned. And if you are not providing snacks and beverages, definitely have a shorter cocktail hour. Else it can just become a little bit boring during that time if people are just waiting and they kind of run out of conversation and are not sure what to do. So after that, moving into grand entrance, the time when your wedding party is coming in, really, really exciting. Some people like to do their first dance and cake right away and speeches, and some people like to wait till afterwards. I would say typically what our format normally is for flow is grand entrance. Then if somebody is doing a welcome speech, then if somebody is doing a prayer before dinner, then for dinner time, that would come right after. You don't want to leave a lot of space for your guests in between where they're wondering what's coming up next. You don't want them to kind of get bored and be sitting. So after that, dinner time, depending on your amount of guests, is going to last anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. I would say typically plated dinners take a little bit longer just because those are plates that are being particularly set to different spots at the table, where buffet depending on how many lines are available, can move through pretty quickly. After that, typically, we would make announcements for toasts starting soon. So once toasts begin, I would say um, each person just plan for about 5 minutes. So if you have 2 speeches, about 10 minutes, 3 speeches, we build in about 15 minutes. After that, we put in your dances. If you have your first dance that you haven't done, or any dances with any special people, whether that be parents, grandparents, mentors, whatever that may be, special dances. And then if you're doing a cake cutting or another special event, sometimes around that time too, it's a time where a lot of people are paying attention. So I would say that being able to put in something if you want to break the ice, a great idea, I would think, would be the shoe game. So that's just an idea where you have 2 people sitting back to back, raising a shoe. And I don't mean to say 2 random people, but you and your spouse would be sitting back to back and you would exchange shoes, or if you have signage, some people use different signs to vote for themselves, but that's great crowd interaction, and asking about 10 to 15 questions based on your relationship. And that just helps people get to know you a little bit too. That normally ends up being a 5 minute activity. Cake normally ends up being about 5 minutes. Dances, if you're doing 3, build in about 15 minutes. And again, for speeches, 5 minutes per speech. So after that, opening up the dance floor, I would say open up the dance floor for about 20 minutes before starting any other events. Events to maybe take place next, depending on what you want to do, would maybe be anniversary dance. So that would be bringing out all the married couples, and some people just play one song. Maybe they play 2. Maybe they vote off couples, depending on how long they've been together. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Some people like to do the dollar dash. That's becoming really popular as a great way to boost your honeymoon fund. So a lot of people, what they typically do is take both sides of their bridal party and put them against each other to try to collect as much money as possible in about 60 to 90 seconds. So that's really fun to have a just high lifted song, just getting things kind of pumped up. And while enough people are still there to participate. So that's really fun. Also, anniversary dance, again, doing earlier on. So, especially some of those older couples are still present at your event. Then moving on, add in some more party time. Music is playing, good vibes are flowing. Then, if you want to add in, let's say, bouquet and garter or any type of other variation of events, one that we like to do, especially if you have more of a party group, would be the game Thunderstruck. That can be used at any time. I would say definitely it more than an hour before the end of your night, just because you want it to be used as a place to keep things bumping up, where when you're trying to phase out the night, you don't want to add that in right at the end. But that's a way to circle everybody up. Each time the AC/DC Thunderstruck song says thunder, the next person takes a sip of whatever they have. That can be an all ages friendly game because you do not have to have an alcoholic beverage. It could be any beverage of your choice. So that can definitely be user friendly depending on the vibe you want for your group. But we are always open to just exploring different options to make it personalized for you. So whatever you see that would be a good fit for your event, we'd love to do. At the end of the night, we love to add with kind of a mixture. You can do a send off. Some people like to do sparkler send off at the very end. And I would say before that, I always ask, do you want your group to get together and send you off, typically in a circle around the spouses in the middle? If you want to do that as a fun send off group dance. And then what I do see trending a lot at the very end is when you think of the first dance at the beginning to kind of open up the dance floor, then at the end of the night, I've been seeing a trend of the solo dance where it is the spouses together ending the night, really soaking in those moments together and really sealing the deal. So just wanted to share with you, obviously everyone's itinerary is different, but just to give you some options that are kind of fun. So thank you guys so much. And thank you for checking out I Do Crew DJs. Have a great day.